Hello, friends. I am going to add my friend Taylor conversation today, all about somatics, all about chakras. It's going to be an amazing conversation. Taylor is a friend of mine. She is a yogi, and I'm excited to talk to her so much about her take on chakras and her take on how somatics plays into her practice and what the chakras even are. Let's see if I can invite her to join. Okay, there it is. It's going to be fun today. Let's see. I can invite her again. Hello, friend. Good. Let's see if I can add her. There it is. Taylor's a pro at this. This is my first time going live, so let's see if that worked. Accept. Go live with Taylor. There you are. I was like, I know I'm doing something wrong. I saw your wave. I'm like, I invited you, but I clearly did not invite you the right way. Thank goodness you know what you're doing, Taylor.
Oh, I'm figuring it out as we go along.
I love it.
Good to be here, though.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Taylor. I am so glad that you are joining me today. We are going to talk all about chakras and all about somatics, and I'm just excited to have this conversation and kind of hear how you use chakras in your own practice and how learning about this practice of somatics has changed your yoga practice for yourself and also the way you teach. Why don't you give us a little introduction? Tell us who you are.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor. I'm the creator of the travel and yoga blog Taylor's Tracks. I'm also a confidence coach, and I help a lot of new yoga teachers or yogis who are just really interested in personal development actually use yoga to improve their lives and to get deeper and to heal and to get the confidence and the courage to actually go out and share this work, because I truly believe we need more yoga teachers. We need more coaches. This is just the way the world is going right now, and I like to think about this kind of work that we're doing with somatics now as being like therapy for yogis specifically. Like, it gets, I don't want to say deeper, because therapy absolutely like has its place and everything, but it's just really attractive to us as yogis. So I think it's really, really exciting.
Bring it, sister. I love that. That's fantastic. Yes. And of course, you all know me. If you don't know me, my name is Kris. I'm a Kundalini yogi. I run Central Michigan Kundalini, and I help women become the badasses that they know they are through practices of intuition, through somatics, and of course, the divine feminine practice of Kundalini. So today, Taylor, we get to talk so much about chakras. We get to talk about somatics. And so why don't we just start with having you tell us a little bit about what chakras are, because we hear that. I feel like that's kind of a trendy thing sometimes. Both chakras and somatics are kind of trending words, and not a lot of people really kind of understand what that is. So in your words, how would you define or describe or explain chakras?
Yeah, they're super trendy. And I know a lot of people just click on it. Like, I know for a lot of like YouTube and like SEO, like search engine optimization, the terms that people are looking for is like light chakra or throat chakra, like whatever one you're looking for. And when I started getting clearer on what chakras were, I was like, oh, this actually makes a lot more sense now. And it's actually pretty easy. So the chakras are energy centers that reside in the very center of our being. We have an energy channel that runs up and down the length of our spine, not like in the spine, but like in the core of our bodies. And this is called Sushumna Nadi. Your chakras reside in this energy channel, and they can translate as like wheels or discs that spin. So as this energy moves up and down, which is what yoga is helping us doing when we're grounding, we are pulling our energy down. When we're uplifting, when we're feel like we're going higher, feeling really good, that's pulling our energy up. So as this energy is moving up and down, it's spinning these energy centers, these chakras. And each chakra has a color, like a sound, like a mantra associated with it, different emotions and beliefs that tend to be really common and a lot of people experience. And emotions can get trapped in these areas and they can kind of like stop spinning and feel like more friction. So an example would be someone who has trouble in their throat chakra might not be able to speak up quite as much. This might mean that they're deficient, or someone who speaks far too much and needs to be a little bit more quiet would be in excess in this chakra. So that's just a very overarching way to think about the chakras, and they can be used to help you in your personal development journey, to help you sequence yoga classes, and they can also be really helpful for healing too. I use the chakras the most probably out of any other framework that you learn in yoga.
And it's interesting. I love how you explain them. And I've worked with chakras for a really long time. I love working with chakras. But when we started to play with somatics and understanding what somatics is, my understanding and my approach to that chakra in my own practice changed drastically. And when we look at the chakras from a somatic approach, it just really, like you said, it's in the body. And these energy centers are so powerful. And when we understand that they are part of our body, and if we manipulate and shift our body, we can manipulate and shift those chakras. Like, that's so powerful. Like, somatics in and of itself, the definition of somatics is of the body, right? And so when we practice, like any practice can become somatic if we move from a place of feeling our body instead of thinking about our body. And so when we are talking about chakras, I can't wait to go deeper into this because I've always thought about the chakras. And now as we move into somatics and I feel the chakras, it's just a completely different practice. Before we go deeper, I would love for you to kind of get us settled into our bodies and get us warmed up, as it were, with a little bit of a practice. What do you have for us today?
Yes, so you're going to get to experience a somatic breathing practice that focuses on the heart chakra, which is one of the most popular ones and one of the chakras I love to work with the most.
Same.
So wherever you're at, come into a comfortable seat, stand if that's something that you prefer. Your hands can rest either on your legs, they can drip to your heart, your belly, wherever feels comfortable. Just allow your intuition to guide you where to place your hands. Maybe you close down your eyes or soften your gaze. And start by taking a few deep breaths here, allowing the breath to smooth out as you land in this place. Think of breathing into your heart space as you inhale, like you're trying to puff out area around your heart. On your next inhale, open your mouth and breathe in through your mouth. As you exhale, seal your lips, breathe out through your nose. It feels a little counterintuitive. Keep with it. Inhale through your mouth, puff up the chest. Exhale, chest lowers as you breathe out through the nose. As you inhale through open mouth, think of sucking in air and widening across the chest. As you exhale, soften front of chest between the shoulder blades. Inhale to widen. Shoulders move away from each other as heart lifts. Exhale to release. Keep going just like that for a few more breaths. Allow the breath to be as audible as you'd like. And on your next exhale, release this pranayama, this breath practice, sealing the lips. And returning the breath in and out through the nose. And draw your hands over your heart if they're not there yet. And gently dip your chin towards your chest. Seal in this practice and all the spaciousness you just created in your heart space. When you're ready, flutter your eyes open and return back to this space.
I just love it. You know, it's interesting. I think about, I'm so much more aware of my body. And some things I noticed just in that quick breath practice that tells me that my nervous system is regulating is that I yawn. And like I always tell people that I teach, like when you yawn, that means you're calming down. That means your body feels it's safe. And so even in that few minutes that you let us through, like I started to yawn, I started to salivate. When I get drooly, that means my body is ready to digest, right? And so that's such a great sign. So even though that was heart chakra, that is full system. I love, love, love that practice. That's amazing. Tell me, Taylor, as we just did this, and it just is so impactful almost immediately, how do you use your awareness of the chakras and your understanding of the chakras as you teach or in your own practice? Like, how do you connect with those as you move your body?
Yeah, so when I'm teaching classes or when I'm creating the sequence, like I very much use the chakras first as a way to think like, okay, I'm teaching a hip opening flow today. I'm going to focus on the sacral chakra because that's the area of the body that that chakra governs. So I'm kind of looking from like the outside perspective of like the skin and then going deeper. So the physical body and then going deeper. Or you could even say like going out as you get like more energetic as well, depending on how you want to look at it. So first picking which area of the body that I really want to focus on. But then if we're looking at a more somatic approach, I want to tune into the body first and see where I'm feeling maybe some tension, could even be pain or pinching, any sort of discomfort, and then knowing where in the body that is landing. Like I know for me, when I feel really anxious, my like chest gets really tight, or like my gut starts to get tight, and I know, okay, I need to focus on the sacral chakra, back down into the hips, the low belly, low back, or I need to focus up into the heart chakra. Then I'm thinking, okay, what sort of moves can I do from this area that's going to help me open this area? Because usually when there's like a clamping down or tightness, we want to do the exact opposite. So if I'm thinking into the heart, I might be like reaching my heart forward and then rounding it back. And it's not just the front of the heart, it's the back of the heart that we want to look into as well. I'm thinking more about the solar plexus, like the mid tummy area. I might be doing some twists from side to side to really start to loosen. And that is a really helpful way for me, just in my own practice, to help guide me, to help guide my students in my private coaching and in creating sequences as well as with my own personal development, to add like a whole other layer as well. I'm like, okay, something's happening in the heart chakra. I'm really tight. I'm really anxious here. Okay, what is the heart chakra related to? Of course, love, compassion. Do I need to give myself some more love today? Am I actually caring for myself? No, not really. I've been working all day when all I wanted to do was go out for a walk, which luckily I did today. But like right away we start to get some answers as soon as we start tuning into a certain area. And it's really, really amazing, I think.
Well, and I love seeing you put your hands on your body too, right? Like, because we know that that's such a somatic practice. Like, if you're like, you talk about your heart and your hands go right there, right? You talk about your throat and your hands go right there, like feeling into that. And so that brings up another question I have in my mind. Do you have a like favorite go-to movements? Like the heart chakra, do you have movements that you find that you go back to time and time again because they are so impactful when focusing, like, okay, I am anxious or I'm feeling disconnected? Like, do you have go-to poses or movements that you find yourself doing?
Oh yeah. So in a lot of my yoga practices to open my heart, I do a lot of like cactus arms, lift the heart, and like anytime there's a lunge, I'm like, all right, we need to go back, we need to open. And I do a lot of side bends when I'm teaching in my own practice. I'm always going side to side, rolling into the shoulders. The shoulders can be heart chakra, sometimes throat chakra as well, depending on who you're talking to. But I also work a lot into my solar plexus, which is, I'm going to say funny, but I mean, makes perfect sense because I talk to people so much about confidence. I'm constantly opening up my confidence center, my self-esteem center, so it all makes sense.
Right, it does make sense, doesn't it? Isn't that fun?
Yes.
So, yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go right ahead.
Okay. I was going to ask, do you use the chakras to inform your own yoga practice? Maybe in a way that's different from me, maybe in the same way. How so, and how can the students actually do this for themselves?
Yeah, and I love working with chakras. I've worked with chakras for a long time, and I take a much more intuitive approach to the chakras now, partly because I'm a Kundalini yogi, and so the energy we work with very differently in Kundalini than we do in traditional yoga. And so when I work with the chakras recently in the past 6 months or so, has been very much more about relationships between the chakras, and how, like, that solar plexus chakra is totally related to that root chakra, that sacral and the throat, the heart. And there's so many connections between the chakras that bring balance and support each other. So I have found that more and more I work with not one individual chakra, but I work with pairs or trios of chakras, the heart and the crown, the heart and the third eye, the throat and the sacral, the throat and the solar plexus. Like, all of those are so intertwined. And I have a much stronger and more powerful reaction, I guess is the right word. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but like, I feel them differently when I work with them in cohort with that. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, the first time that I learned that there are like loops of energy
Right.
connecting chakras, I'm like, oh my god, this makes so much more sense. And something that I didn't share when I was describing the chakras is that they're all connected. Like, when you start working or focusing on one, it's ultimately going to affect the one that's directly above and below a little bit more than the other ones, but it's all connected. So it doesn't matter where you choose to start healing, you're on the right path. It's going to help out.
Exactly, 100%. Well, and so, as we talk about it, like, we both are talking about the chakras and how they feel, right? And how we're aware of them. And we're talking, like you talked about the emotions, and there's other things connected to sound that are connected to those chakras. So let's take it a little bit more into that somatic part of this practice with the chakras. I mean, chakras are powerful in and of themselves, but when we feel into them, and you do such a beautiful job of describing the way it feels to work with, like, your heart and stuff like that. And you said a couple times, like, I feel like I just want to do this. Why do you think it is so powerful to move this practice of the chakras into a somatic based movement instead of keeping it structured with yoga?
Yeah, so I want to start off by saying that, like, traditional yoga of any kind is absolutely fantastic. It has its place, and it's not going anywhere. Like, what we're learning and what we're sharing is, like, take your yoga practice and add to it. Like, how can we make it that much more juicier, that much more impactful for ourselves? And when we start to think about, like, okay, where in the body am I feeling like I need to work, and we can identify a chakra that can give us an idea. Heart, okay, I'm gonna work in chest and shoulders. Throat, okay, I need some neck stretches. And when we start to look at this from a more intuitive way, instead of relying on a teacher to tell us exactly what to do, it's using your body's guidance to teach you how to heal. And I always say, like, listen, I am merely a guide. I don't even call myself a yoga teacher that much. I am a guide. This is your practice. If I suggest something that doesn't feel great, like, listen to your own body instead. And that's what somatics is helping us do, but with the support of yoga. Because that's what that's what you're familiar with. We're not telling you to drop all of that, because that's going to be really overwhelming. There's still benefits.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say too, that's, I think, one of the hardest parts of a somatic practice, right? As you move away from that traditional yoga, or you, like, how do you even make more that yoga more, right? Like, is that element of trust in yourself and trust in your own body, right? And so, yeah, I think it's amazing to have that yoga practice to rely on, because there are moments of, like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. Right? When you say, how does it feel? Well, so many of us walk through our world without even realizing we have a body for so much of our life. And so when you're thrown into the situation where I'm here for a chakra practice, and I know that I'm supposed to move my heart this way and my spine this way and my throat this way, and then the teacher says, how does it feel? How can you make it more? How, what does your body want to do? And you're just like, what do you mean, my body? And so there is, I think that right there, you hit on that. I think the hardest part of that somatic practice is that level of trust in your own body, which is the whole point, right?
Exactly. Now, do you have any tips or ways that you can share with students of how they can make their yoga practice more embodied or somatic? Embodied, somatic, same,
Pretty much.
thing.
Yep, pretty much the same. Yes, they are one and the same. So my own experience with that is, one, I think most of us that move our bodies, that are yogis or dancers, or have a movement practice of some sort, are more comfortable moving our bodies because we have that conversation already built up. But even for us, it can be embarrassing, it can be fearful, it can be uncomfortable. I mean, it is uncomfortable. And so what I have done myself is, being a Kundalini yogi, I have sadhanas, right? So that's a morning, it's a devotion to practice, devotion to self practice. And so in the mornings, it used to be very structured of like, here's this kriya, here's this pause, here's this kriya, here's this pause. And now I give myself permission in my bedroom, in the dark. I don't even turn the lights on. I roll my mat out. I'm still in my jammies. And I have a set playlist of a couple of songs. So I have a set amount of time that I know is going to end. And I give myself permission to just move. And so that literally is my practice of somatics. So I can become more comfortable moving my body. I do it in private. I do it in the dark. And there's no one watching. There's no one to be accountable to. And I know that I only have to do it for 15 minutes or however long my playlist is. And so that would be my advice, is to just start doing it and, set up some structure so you feel comfortable moving your body. Maybe you have a focus of like chakras, right? And that's always nice too. Like, okay, today I'm going to work on my sacral chakra. So I'm going to focus on the hips, or I'm going to work on my throat chakra. So I'm going to focus on the neck and shoulders. But then from there, knowing, okay, I only have to do this for one song, I'm going to just move, and no one's going to watch, and no one's going to see. And what does it feel like? And then the other big advice is, like we said before, put your hands on your body. Shoot yourself, which is something that we don't do enough, right?
Yes, just giving yourself a hug, letting your fingers rub. This is a somatic movement. This is a somatic practice.
Yes, 100%. Like, this is it. Yes, 100%. Totally. So I guess I'm going to ask you the same question too, Taylor. Like, what do you do? What have you found that you are able to give yourself permission to move?
Yeah. So I use yoga always as the foundation, as we've been saying, and then allowing myself to not be linear. Like, I like to think of somatic movement as like a wave. So if I'm in like a lizard or some kind of lunge, I'm going to be swaying side to side. You can think of the water. I sometimes like to say it's like a leaf being blown back and forth in the wind. Like, you're just really light. Like any circular movements, like you need a big side stretch and you start like moving the wrists. Like, you don't have to be like perfectly still and like hold everything. Like, somatics just gives us so much more space to explore all the nooks and crannies, as I like to say. So instead of doing like a traditional cat-cow, maybe you're bending to the side, maybe you're taking some barrel rolls. Like, you're just allowed to move like however you want, like a snake, like how a kid would, like they're just like bouncing around everywhere. And if I'm having a hard time getting myself to just move, because I know when we tell that to people, they're just like, what do you mean just to move? Like you were saying, like, we're just so unaware of our body. Half the time you tell someone to step their right foot forward and they're doing the opposite foot. just moving like music helps. Like, if you are just dancing, if you're just bouncing around, because bouncing is another way to make yoga movements more somatic as well, that is a somatic practice. And that in itself can be your yoga practice, because you're self-aware enough to realize that you need to like shake something off. Again, you can just like do like this little flick dancing, or just throwing your arms from side to side. All of this is somatic movement. Like, anything that we typically don't really allow ourselves to do because we're holding on so much is somatic. Yep. So music is like my number one tool to like really help getting you feeling into your body, because everyone knows how to dance, whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's how your body needs to release. Right.
I love it, because as you're talking about, we're both like moving. Like, we're
yes, I can't help it.
Like, neither of us can sit still. We're just like, yeah, I'm gonna just move my body. And I think you made a really good point too, that I'm just gonna reiterate for everyone listening, is like you said, bouncing, right? Or shaking, like, and how that's a somatic practice. I think that's a really important point to get across when we're talking about this. It doesn't have to be yoga poses. It doesn't have to be grandiose gestures or like a 5-minute, like fancy dance. It literally, like bouncing up and down for 90 seconds can be a full somatic practice. Shaking your hands for 30 seconds, that can be a somatic practice. And those are movements that are more acceptable for our brain, I guess, and feel a little bit more accessible sometimes. That might be a wonderful way for people to actually just start to feel their bodies. And I just wanted to reiterate like that, what you just said, because that's really, really important, I think.
Yes. And Kris, why don't you sum up for us, like, what is so beneficial of somatics? Not necessarily over traditional yoga, but like what are we getting truly out of it? Adding somatics. Why is it important? Why does everyone need it?
Yeah, a little question. I love that. But that's why we're here, right? So I think, like kind of bringing it full circle, like we started with chakras, right? And we talked about the chakras and what the chakras are. And I think I said how like I approach the chakras from my head. And now that I have a somatic practice, I approach the chakras from my body. And it's just such a different place. And like, you can make any practice a somatic or an embodied practice by feeling into it. And so, like with the chakras, there's so much to think about that we often get in our own way. And same with the yoga practice. Like I teach teachers, I've owned a yoga studio, and like there's so much to think about. I mean, we've all been through yoga teacher training, right? Like there's so much to think about, and alignment and cueing and safety and, like all of these, and accessibility and all of those things that we forget to feel. And that misses so much of the picture. And so it's so important to come back to, I don't want to say the basics because it's not, come back home is really kind of how I want to describe it, of feeling that in your body, whether it's movement, whether it's chakras, whether it's stillness, whether it's breath, like we did at the beginning of this. I think it is just such a different world, and it adds so much more on when you come from a place of feeling instead of a place of thinking. It's like I always say, it's the sprinkles on top of the icing on top of the cupcake. Like the cupcake is your yoga practice, right? Or your chakra practice. And then there's the icing, which is like the advanced practice or the deeper understanding or the philosophy, right? And then you have the sprinkles, which just kind of make it all just fantastic and spectacular and over the top. Like, yeah, I want more sprinkles, please. And that to me is what a somatic practice does to all of the other practices. And the other part of that too is that it's important that you can just have a somatic practice, you can have an embodied practice, but being embodied means that you can use all of these other tools like the chakras, like traditional yoga, like, fill in the blank. It just really adds on, and it doesn't take away from any other movement practice that you have. Walking, swimming, whatever the case may be.
Yes. Just listening to you talk had me thinking about how our teacher, Brett Larkin, had said, mindful, like we all want to be mindful, but we also want to be bodyful.
Yes.
We don't want to stay up here. We want to be able to feel everything, experience the full cupcake, because we didn't love more sprinkles.
I love that, right? Like, goody, goody, goodness. Yes. So Taylor, this has been amazing. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so my travel and yoga blog is taylorstracks.com. Of course, on Instagram, same thing. YouTube, same thing. I actually have some somatic practices up on YouTube now as well, whether you want to approach it from more of like a vinyasa side or more from a yin side. I've added somatics to both, so you'll be able to experience it no matter what you love. And I'm also a confidence coach for new yoga teachers and people who just really want to follow their dreams. So if you're stuck where you are and keep thinking about what you want to do, or maybe just keep getting more manuals and education, then I'm the girl you want to chat with. So you can
I love that. I love that. And of course, you can all find me on my website, on socials, on YouTube. It's literally my name, Kris Batsner. KrisBatsner.com is my website. So I have had an absolutely wonderful time talking to you about this today, Taylor. This has been wonderful.
As always, thank you.
Yes. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.